We're now heading into the Cannes season. The National Film and Video Foundation will be sending a group of filmmakers and actors to the festival in France. It will run from the 8th of May to the 19th. Rafiki is one of the films chosen to show at the event. Stephen Markovitz joins us from our Cape Town studios to chat about the film. Stephen, a very good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us on this Saturday.
Good morning. Good to be here. Thank you.
Now, before we get into the controversy, this is sort of reminiscent of Ingleba and everything that happened around it, with people not wanting it to be screened in South Africa. But before we get into that, let's talk about what gave birth to the story.
Well, I work as a producer all over Africa, and about 10 years ago I did a series of 10 short films in different countries. One of the films was a film called Pumzi by the director Wanuri Kahiu from Kenya, and I saw some great talent there. That short film went on to Sundance, and then we started developing a project together. We optioned a short story called Jambula Tree, which won the Caine Prize for Literature. It was by Monica Arak-Dinyeko. And then we developed that. Took about 7 years to put the film together, but we kind of had this philosophy of taking great African literature and adapting it to cinema.
And that is so, so important, Stephen. We look at this film and it was done in Kenya, but interestingly, Kenya has rejected it in terms of not wanting to show it at their local cinemas. Given that you've put in so much work into it, 7 years, as you mentioned, firstly, how does that even make you feel?
Well, I think, one's got to look at it in a broader context. Being selected for the Cannes Film Festival in a competition section is a great honor, and a very rare honor, because very few South African or African films get into Cannes. The last time South Africa had a film in the festival was in 2011. So I think it's a great honor to be there, and it's a great recognition of the film and the filmmaker. So we're very proud of that. The reality in Kenya is that the film board have banned the film, and we are now in discussions with them around that to see if we can make some progress. I think, often, I think us as filmmakers and producers, we have an obligation, as far as I'm concerned, to make films that reflect society, that stimulate debate in society, and are not just kind of wallpaper films that kind of make you feel good. So for us, it's important to make films like that, so we're very proud that we made a film like that. And there are many, many people and sectors of society in Kenya who support our film, but we have been banned there, and we'll continue to try and challenge that.
And the story has set tongues wagging across the continent. Good Kenyan girls become good Kenyan wives. That's almost the story of most women on the continent, some would argue. Tell us about Kenna and Zaki and their love story.
Well, the film is a story about two girls who live on the same estate who become friends. Their fathers are rival politicians, so already the friendship has a certain level of kind of resistance, and then they fall in love. And for us, it's really important to make love stories in Africa. I think a lot of films that get made, or a lot of the way the West reflect on Africa, is making films about war, devastation, and suffering, which does exist on the continent. But I think for us as filmmakers on this continent, we need to make films that are also about love, about joy, about daily life, and not just what we see on the news headlines. So we felt it very important to tell a love story, which is a story of forbidden love, but to see that kind of human connection between people, we felt was really important.
Here, it's so important to change the narrative on how stories about the continent are told. But in the same breath, given that this film in Kenya, for instance, they're saying that they're banning it because it promotes lesbianism, seeing that there is sort of a censorship, if you will, for lack of a better word, on what stories can be told and what stories cannot be told from the continent itself, what does this mean? Does it mean that we stop telling these stories, or we go ahead and tell them because they go on to show at Cannes film festivals internationally also?
Well, I think first and foremost, when we make films, we want to make it for our local audiences. So, excuse me. So, you know, our aim was for this film to show in Kenya. So that's a big disappointment. But I think to say the film promotes lesbianism has all kinds of value judgments within there. You know, it's a film about the reality of life in Kenya, of many people's realities, and we can't go about just airbrushing that out of history. We have to deal with all aspects of society when we make films. So we feel quite unapologetic about that, and there are many people who support the film, so that is quite heartening.
I'd like to know about the main actresses in the film. Are they Kenyan or South African based? And if they are Kenyan based, how has their life been in the follow-up to all of this controversy?
I think that so far so good. I mean, you know, when the film got banned, it was trending in Kenya for a couple of days, and the trailer's out now, and so, you know, they are recognizable, but they are not. They're not receiving. They're not in any kind of danger or anything like that at this point. So far so good, and we're in daily contact with them, often hourly contact, and they seem to be in good spirits and are really excited about walking up the red carpet representing Kenya for the first time in Cannes. It's the first time a Kenyan film has been selected for Cannes. And
no doubt it's going to do incredibly well. I do want to know, however, what you are working on next. It seems as though you have a love for the continent. What are you cooking up?
Well, we shot a film last year in Sudan with the director Hajuj Kuka, who lives in the Nuba Mountains in Sudan, and it's our second film we're working with him. The first one was called Beats of the Antonov, which won the Audience Award at the Toronto Film Festival. So now Hajuj has made a feature film. And it's also, you know, not just about kind of doom and gloom. It's looking at it's kind of like a satirical comedy set in a war zone in Sudan. So it's trying to look at daily life and the kind of funny things that go on in the Nuba Mountains. And I'm also working on a new film with Wanuri, which is a science fiction film. Her first short film, Pumzi, was also science fiction, so we're going back to that. And we're busy finishing a big documentary on the biggest UFO cult in the world, and another documentary in Ghana, and a further documentary in Libya. So we're working all over the continent at the moment.
Lovely. When do we get to see Rafiki in South African cinemas?
Well, that news will come out soon. At the moment, we're going there. We have 2 sales agents on the film, including Orange Studios. So we will see, you know, what offers we get for the film. But we're already talking to local distributors here. So we hope to make an announcement about that soon.
Every time you try and shut something up, it just gains momentum. Now I really can't wait to see Rafiki. Thank you very much for your time this morning, Stephen Markovitz, the director of the film Rafiki.